episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a narcoleptic, Charles Coulombe.
Narcoleptic? You mean as in I'm given to passing out from time to time?
Yes, affected by or relating to an extreme tendency to fall asleep.
I'm sorry? What was that?
That's reminiscent of 13th Floor. Are you're we're not telling a 13th Floor story.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, gosh, the last time I was anywhere near the 13th floor, I just... I'm sorry, what were we talking about again?
We're talking about scary and creepy stuff because we're approaching Halloween.
We are indeed. And speaking of scary, creepy stuff, you wouldn't believe what I saw today.
What?
Well, I was on the March for Life in Vienna. And that part was great. Saw a lot of old friends. One young classmate of mine here from before, he's now working with the organization of the thing. Wow, did he really learn street oratory? I was very impressed. I really was. I'm very proud of the guy. Really, really very proud of the guy. But what impressed me was not simply the happy young people I was marching with, and there were a lot of them. It was the sad and nasty opposition and the grotesque way they dressed. I mean, this one woman, I swear to you, she looked like the she-wolf of the SS, only in pink.
Yeah, I've seen rallies for these the opposition, shall we say, and it looks honestly like a glimpse of hell.
Yeah, it's very, very scary. And it was funny. They tried several times to block our passage, and the police had to help them with their issues. But it was interesting that one of my friends said to me, I was looking in the eyes of several of them. And, this will sound weird, but I felt like I was looking into the eyes of a demon. And I said, well, you know why you felt that way, don't you? And he goes, no, why? I said, well, because you were looking into the eyes of a demon. I mean, people who are really into infanticide, there's a problem there. And these were looking at them, they were marginal, damaged people, very sad creatures. And they're used by by the worthless scumbag powers that be as their foot soldiers, but they're very broken individuals. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that 3/4 of their signs were in English.
What does that tell you?
Well, all of our signs were in German, all the R2s in German, because it was for want of a better word, internal consumption. These people were playing to American television. So that was very, very sad. But that's not the only thing, because as you rightly pointed out, we're getting close to Halloween. We are in the October country, as I've read before. And this is the kind of year where I tend to play, not over and over, but a couple times a week, Dickie Lee's famous song, Lori.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts out, last night at the dance I met Lori, so lovely and warm, an angel of a girl. Last night I fell in love with Lori. Strange things happen in this world. Well, he walks her home, and she mentions it's her birthday, and he says, "Will I see you anymore?" And she suddenly asked for his sweater because she was very, very cold. So he gives her a sweater and takes her to her house. She told him where to go. Kisses her, says goodnight. He's walking away, and then he thinks about his sweater. So he turns around to go back and get it, rings the doorbell, a man comes to the door. He tells him what he'd done, and then the man says, "You're wrong, son. You weren't with my daughter. How can you be so cruel to come to me this way? Our Lori left us world on her birthday. She died a year ago today." A strange force drew me to the graveyard. I stood in the dark. I saw the shadows wave, and uh, and there I stood, I saw my sweater lying there on Laurie's grave. Strange things happen in this world.
Wow. What is that from?
It's a song by Dickie Lee called Laurie. It was a big hit in 1965. A real breeze from the groove yard, as you might say.
Pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy. But there were other songs from the same era to remember for Halloween. The Monster Mash.
I like the Monster Mash.
Yeah, it was a graveyard smash.
It was weird watching the actual guy say. I think you showed me it like
Yeah,
last
I
year.
did.
It was weird seeing his. I don't know, like putting a face to it.
Facial contortions. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's yeah. That was a taste of Halloween gone by. The that was the era really, and by that I mean the early '60s. It's of course my first trick or treating that I remember was in '63 or '64. I remember my first costume was a Heckle and Jekyll costume.
What was that again? Was that like a pumpkin thing?
No, Heckle and Jekyll were these cartoon characters. They were crows, I guess. And the mask, they were identical. The mask had one, crow head, but then you had this sort of pull-on thing that had their both of them Heckle and Jekyll.
Mm.
And I was very happy to have my Heckle and Jekyll costume. I still wear it. It doesn't fit quite as well. It's more like a napkin now.
Gosh.
And the mask only, covers the top of my head. But no, seriously, trick or treating in those days was a serious event. I mean, the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown really captures, uh, the feeling.
Yeah. The Christmas one captures the Christmas feeling too. I like the Charlie Brown specials.
Me too. And the funny thing is, even then, in the mid '60s, uh, Schultz got a lot of guff for the biblical quotations in the Christmas show.
I remember that. Yeah, by Linus, I think, or
Yeah,
yeah,
and well, he reads it at the Christmas play.
yeah.
See, one thing that people forget was that back then they still had Christmas pageants in public schools. So it made sense that they would do that, and in the context of the thing, it made sense that Linus would do that. But it annoyed the network. But Schultz basically said, "Well, it's staying in, and you can kiss the whole thing goodbye." So that took care of that issue. That's why you can still hear Linus saying that Linus voice. For behold, there came wise men from the east.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
no, so it's as we said on the pre-show to our patrons. This really is the beginning of the great, for want of a better word, holiday season. And now more than ever before, ladies and gentlemen, we should revel in the nostalgia and enjoy the present. Because most particularly because everything seems stacked against us doing just that. I mean, have you noticed how prevalent killjoyism is in the air these days?
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody's having a good time, we got to kill it. If there's anything, no matter how innocent or pleasant, no, you got to kill it. I was interested to find out that the city of Los Angeles has, I guess, they really tightened the screws again for the holiday season. I got a note from them pushing me to vax on my cell phone, not to vax on my cell phone, but to vax, and it said that uh, because the COVID infection rates are rising rapidly, but they're not. They're not
The
rising right now.
the XYZ variant is on the rise. The whatever, the gamma variant, or I don't know.
The
I don't know
gamma
what
variant,
variant we're on, but all the variants. Yeah.
all the variants, they're all on the rise. Everything's rising. Temperature's rising. The whole thing's going up. All boats are being lifted.
It's just gross because I keep saying this. As a marketer, I look at what's being said, and the most effective marketing messages are those that tap into a person's emotion. And just all the marketing messages, like, I don't even like scrolling through Google News because it's always something that's designed to incite fear. Oh, a solar flare! All the electromagnetic, all your electronic devices are going to go out because of, you know, because of this event, or whatever. There's a million different things.
Well, I can promise you, studies have just shown that in 150 years, every man, woman, and child on the planet will be dead.
It's very true.
Everyone now living, they will all be dead in 150 years. Studies show. I think it's time we get hysterical.
Yep.
How can you be so calm in the face of this impending catastrophe?
This reminds me of the talk you did with Bill on Doomsday, and you kind of
Yes.
poo-pooed all the prophecies because the point of the whole talk was that everybody has their own Doomsday.
Yeah. And it's coming. There's a sorry to lapse into song for the second time, but there's a wonderful old English music hall song that goes, it'll be all the same, just the same, 100 years from now. No use hurrying, no use worrying, no use kicking up a row. For I won't be here, and you won't be here when 100 years have gone. And somebody else will be wheeling the cart, and the world will still go on.
Heard that one before. I don't like thinking about that. I like thinking that I matter. I'm in charge.
Well, you do, and you are. I mean, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look
Exactly.
upon my works, ye mortals, in despair.
Exactly.
No, it's part of the reason why people are so whacked these days, I think, is that death has become the great overwhelming fear. Um, so you've got to look behind it. It is going to come for us all, and in a sense, it's one of the messages of Halloween and All Souls Day. Death is coming, and it's already come for most of us if we're older than 10. For most of us, death has come for a lot of people we love. And the world becomes, for us as individuals, a poorer place as each of these people get harvested, so to speak. And I really believe if you live long enough, your own mortality is somewhat softened by the fact that it's somewhat softened by the fact that there's no escape, and that the people you miss, we hope to see again. So think about them as we get ready to go into Halloween in the month of the Holy Souls. Think of how much you look forward to seeing them again. And of course, I suppose I should say this both this week and next week because it's become such a cliche of modern advertising. The veil between the worlds is very thin this time of year. How was that?
That was good.
Was it creepy?
Yes.
Good. I live to creep.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna do the Halloween episode for next week. So all you people who have any interesting Halloween questions, send them in. For all you non-patrons, become a patron to make sure your question gets asked, especially if you have a nice Halloween question. You can become a patron for as low as $5 a month, get access to the pre-show and early access. All right, time for the questions, shall we, Charles?
Yeah, just wanted to point out that you should, if you haven't already, get a copy of Sir Sean Leslie's Ghost Book.
That's
very, very important.
That's right. I think it's $15 on the Tumblr House bookstore. Incredibly powerful book. I need to reread it. It's one of those books that you want to reread.
Especially this time of year. Also, if you get it with one of those Father Rippinger books, not only does it give you, shall we say, a certain insight to the other side of Halloween, the keeping off of the dark, so to speak, but it'll also get you that socially fashionable free shipping and handling.
That's right. All orders over $25 get free shipping and handling. But wait, there's more. Send in a book review for any book in the Tumblr House bookstore that perhaps you've read already. Get it $5 off instantly. Get a coupon code in your email. Put it on your checkout. Get $5 off.
$5 off?
That's right, Charles. It's a steal of a deal.
Operators are standing by, ladies and gentlemen, to take your orders. Sorry, no CODs. Sub-assembly required.
Void where prohibited. Very important.
Yeah, void indeed.
A lot of people ask me, do you ship to Europe? I said, no. Void where prohibited. We don't ship to Europe.
What would you ship to Europe if CODs were involved?
I guess I would ship to Europe then, right? Wait, would I? Wait, cash on delivery, right?
Yeah, which means that, what it means is that when the thing arrives, you get paid. As you know, they send you the money now.
Yeah, I don't like CODs.
Well, someone will know, because if the money isn't there, you're stuck.
Yeah. I don't know how CODs were ever done. How could anyone ever do CODs?
Because once upon a time, you could trust your fellow American. And in this country, a man's word was as good as his bond. If a fellow ordered something, he was going to pay for it.
But let's say he didn't. What would be your recourse? I mean, not everybody has Tyrone. Let's say you didn't have Tyrone and somebody didn't pay. What could you do?
You were pretty well stuck. But see, because people were so wonderful then, it never broke their words. It was good.
Wow. That seems like a really complicated transaction, too. So it's like cash on delivery. So does the person who receives the item have to mail the cash, or is that done through the... How is that done?
No, the person, the postman or the delivery service agent, whichever it was, took the money at that point and brought it back to his office, wherever he came out of. And that would in turn be sent back to you. So in other words, you did a COD, the postman delivers the book, he pays him the $15. Then at the end of the day, he goes back to the post office, hands it in with all the other CODs, to the postmaster, who in turn sends them back up the line, and eventually they get back to you and to the various other people. That's
Fascinating.
how CODs worked.
I see. So it's not even up to the supplier. I don't think the post office does that at all anymore, right?
No,
Yeah.
no. And I have to say, I mean, if there's anything I remember from the advertisements of my childhood, it was sorry, no CODs. So it
No.
was even then, it was definitely on its way out.
When did it end?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I can't imagine anyone doing it now. Let's see. It's right up there with Christmas clubs, you know?
A Christmas club?
Yeah, banks used to have these deals where starting in January, you could put aside a you could put aside a certain amount of money every week from your paycheck, and that would go into a special Christmas club account, which in turn, when Christmas rolled around, would be because they were high interest. Um, all right, cash and liver. I'm going to Wikipedia, source of all truth.
So the Christmas
Uh,
club's basically like a loan type situation where you're not getting paid. They have your cash. They're investing it, and then in return you get
well,
some interest.
yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Hmm.
so like the way it would work, every week, say they take $20. Um, so you're putting into your Christmas club account $80 a month. Well, that's gathering interest.
I see.
So,
Hmm.
all right, the is this cash on delivery, sometimes called collect on delivery or cash on demand, is the sale of goods by mail order where payment is made on delivery rather than in advance. If the goods are not paid for, they're returned to the retailer. Originally, the term applied only to payment by cash. Um, it's it's pretty rare, but this might interest you, especially because you're looking to expand beyond the United States. In some countries, COD remains a popular option with internet based retailers, since it is far easier to set up for small businesses and does not require the purchaser to have a credit card. Many small businesses prefer cash payment to credit card payment as it avoids credit card processing fees. Some shops also offer discounts if paid in cash because they can offer a better price to the consumer. Pioneered and widely used model in India, the overwhelming majority of e-shopping transactions in the Middle East are COD. 60% of online transactions in the UAE and Middle East are done by cash on delivery. So there you go.
Thank you for reading that Wikipedia article for us.
Well, it's not Lepanto, but it'll have to do.
That's ridiculous. All right. All right. All right. Very good, Charles.
I live to serve.
All right. No memes today. Sorry about that.
No, the old man is tired. No, he's not just narcoleptic. He's tired out. That was a long march.
Yeah, I bet. All right, questions. First question is from Cal.
All
It
right.
says, Dear Vincent and Charles, I have a question regarding the church's canonization process since 1983.
Oh,
As I understand it, John Paul II reduced the requirement to become a canonized saint in his 1983 encyclical Divinus Perfectionis Magister.
it wasn't an encyclical. It was an apostolic constitution.
Mm. Since the number of miracles required for sainthood was reduced and the role of the devil's advocate was minimized, do Catholics have reason to doubt post 1983 canonizations? I recently read an article from the SSPX website where doubt was cast on the status of saints that were canonized since the publishing of this encyclical. Would Charles please explain in further detail the changes that were made to the canonization process and if there should be cause for concern among Catholics?
Well, you actually explained it pretty well right there. Um, Firstly, the canonization process itself is relatively new. It wasn't until the 900s, 983 to be exact, that canonization was reserved to the popes in the first place. So that's why you'll see in a lot of descriptions of earlier saints that they were quote unquote pre-congregation.
Yeah, I remember discovering this I don't know, a couple years ago on the show, because like Saint Patrick is one of those.
Yeah, yeah. So I really would not worry about it. I mean, I don't think it was a wise move. All right, I really don't, because there's so many things to cause doubt today. Just leave it alone. You know, just why bother? Why do that? It was working. It worked for a long time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's true in most things, but it's doubly true in the church. One way to find out if fixing something is a good idea is to take the hammer that you're going to use and hit your forehead as hard as you can. That'll tell you.
So
But
it's not a cause of concern for you that they only need one miracle now?
the requirements for miracles are as strict as they ever were. So no, they're not. I mean, look, it's my old joke. We investigated 1,000 claimed alien abductions last year, and 999 of them were false. Well, all you need is a single real alien abduction for the whole thing to just be tossed on its head. No, I'm not saying I believe in alien abductions. I'm using this as an example. Um, it all you need is one. You know, the only one haunting turned out to be true. Only one case of spontaneous combustion. Well, all you need is one to make trouble. So that doesn't bother me. I mean, as I say, I don't think it was a smart idea, precisely because it gave rise to all this doubt. But I don't think the doubt is necessary. Um, and God love them. The SSPX will jump on anything from Rome, and often not without reason. It's just that I think they sometimes take it a bit too far. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that, honestly, I would go back to the way it was done in times past, because it's been done a lot longer. And the thing is, so much of what we had was the result of organic development. Now, you've got to bear in mind that organic development means over a long period of time, uh, an organization or group or whatever is pushed in that way or that way by real life, by things that really happen, as opposed to self-appointed scholars sitting around in a room saying, wouldn't it be nice if we did this and such? Um, but that's, anyhow, that's just me. I wouldn't worry about it.
Right. Philip says, in Catholic ceremonial, are the sexes ever segregated in the sacred space? In Hinduism, for instance, where the women are on the left and the men are on the right as one faces the altar. I just made a joke about this being reversed from God's perspective, facing the congregation, but I wondered whether this sort of ancient thing had carried over into the traditional Christianity, and if so, to what extent and for how long?
Well, yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, there have been different places that have done just that. Certain of the Eastern rites still do it. Certain kind of remotish places in the Catholic world still do it. Um, but there's never been a church uh, requirement about it. That is to say, uh, a one-size-fits-all rule, but it is still a practice in different places to this day. And I mean, it makes a certain amount of sense. It certainly limits uh, distractions in church.
All right. Layla says, you both are such well-formed Catholics. What do you talk about at dinner? Or more to the point, what's in your view good family dinner conversation? I tried years to form my family in this and failed, with little help to create edifying conversation. I'm told you don't always have to talk about God. For example, bring up a book on Blessed Charles would fall under that category, or Saint of the Day, or fun trying to learn Latin prayer. Is it wrong to bring a page I printed out on Ember Days to share my goal? Is it to bring conversation, not lecture, but it employs no response even from my spouse? I'd love it if one of my grown kids or husband showed up to dinner saying, I just learned this. I drop over in joyous bliss. Silent dinners are sad, but talking about where I brought the bread day, excuse me, where I bought the bread day in and day out is worse. What do you talk about at dinner as a couple with adult children, no kids or older kids? How can I help this mess I'm in?
Well, I think, when I was a kid, my dad subscribed to the late lamented American Heritage magazine. I say late lamented even though it's been revived because it's been wokeified. So I don't subscribe to it now. But um, it was a great magazine back in the day. And my parents and my brother would read it as soon as it came in. And that would form a big part of the discussion at the dinner table, at least, the first couple of nights after it arrived. Until I learned to read, this was a conversation I couldn't join in, which annoyed me very much and was a big part of what pushed me to learn to read in the summer between my first and second grades. So by the time I started second grade, I was reading American Heritage. I could join in the conversations. But see, these things are very organic. I mean, people talk about what's important to them, and you can't simply decide that what's important to you will be important to them. Um, I mean, I often try to introduce, say, the supremacy of French Canadian culture over every other at the dinner table, not simply at home, but when out with friends, etc. It never goes very far. No one's interested. So you have to try to make the topics that you're interested in as interesting to other people as they can be. And what that means is looking at them not from your own point of view, but why would someone else be interested? If your husband and all the people in your family are very much into sports, well, you can always ask him where the Hail Mary pass came from.
Yeah. Mostly seconding what Charles says. I don't know. To me, conversations. How did your day go today? And that's a lot of conversation. A lot happened. There's sort of a reinforcement of right and wrong. There's sort of judgments made of things, and what are you thinking about? What are you reading? Where is your mind?
Well,
What excites your family? There are some rare occasions, like with my niece and nephew, when I go out to eat with them, I get really into deep conversations about Father Ripperger and some of these interesting Catholic things. And my sister has thanked me for talking about these things, because these are kind of interests for my niece and nephew, but it kind of doesn't get talked about. It's kind of like almost a approach like religion is something you do on Sunday sort of thing, mostly. or something you think about, like where there's sort of this compartmentalization. So that could be a thing. But I really, it's just about touching base on what interests other people. Like, how do you talk to people? Do you have them all come to your interests, or do you go to theirs? From my experience, the way to really reach people is to talk about what interests them.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep an ear out, Leia.
Yes. And thank you for all the book purchases, Layla. Don't think I don't know that.
Yes.
Really reliable patron and bookstore book buyer. All right. Question from Connor.
Okay.
He says, "Hail, Vincent and Charles, all the way from the east side of Chicago." Whoa. That's
Wow. Now the east side of Chicago is the wettest part of town. And if you go down there, you better just beware of a man named Leroy Brown.
nice. Nice save.
Except, well, it's the wettest part of town because it's Lake Michigan.
Yeah. All right. So he has a couple questions. First one, he says, "I know you have talked a few times about how to know if the person you're dating is the wrong one for you. But in honor of our newly nuptial nefarious notable, I'd like to ask how you know someone is the right one for you. How should you feel? How should the relationship be, etc.?"
Well, you're the as the married man here, boss. You're the one to say. How did you know?
Well, I
You looked
mean,
across the room, and then
well, what I said in the previous episodes, in terms of just whether you're dating this one for the right reasons, is um, you have to imagine you want to raise a little 4-year-old girl that's just like her, right? And if you don't, if it's like, I don't want a 4-year-old version or 5-year-old version of person I'm dating, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. I'm gonna go a little bit different path. Now everybody's a little bit different, but for me, I'm kind of a romantic person, and so I've always believed that deciding on who to marry, or deciding to marry the love of your life, should be the easiest decision you ever make. And my reason for that is because everything is going to get harder eventually, right? So it should be a no-brainer. For me, so it was an easy decision for me. It was the easiest decision in the world. But even deeper than that, this might be hard to believe for some people. This is very important. Not marrying this girl would put my salvation in greater jeopardy. I don't know if people can understand that. But like, that girl is placed there to get you to heaven. And that not marrying her would be the biggest mistake of your life. I think some men can relate to that. Some family men can be like, yeah, but I don't know if that's for everybody. So those are some of the questions that I've examined. All right, number 2. I've been reading about novenas, and I came across one that was called the 54-day novena. According to the description, it's a very powerful novena to the Blessed Mother, but I'm sure there's more to it that you both could delve into. So please discuss its history and how to do it. Also, there seems to be some debate over whether it needs all 4 mysteries or the original 3. What say you? Also, if you have any personal experiences with this novena, I'd love to hear them. Thank you both, and God bless.
Well, it started, believe it or not, in the 19th century in Naples, as so many things do. Crime families and all kinds of other things came out of Naples. But no, this lady was faced with an incurable disease. She got the idea to do the 54-day novena, expanding the rosary, and she was cured. So it's been popular ever since. Um, you've done it. I have never done it, but you have, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, several years ago, I was I was praying to get a job. Um, and it didn't happen immediately. It still took like a couple years. But yeah, I think 54 day novena is good because it's like it's something to aspire to. And it especially makes sense if you're already doing the rosary every day, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you're not, you're just structuring it. You're just structuring your prayer life a little bit more. Um, so because so there's that, but also too, if you're not quite saying the rosary every day, if maybe there's a day or two where like something happens and you miss it, this might be a good way to just really iron out the wrinkles, so to speak, and really discipline yourselves to just take that little extra step to do it every day. So because I mean, it's like exercise, right? It's like you want to push yourself a little bit more, a little bit more, and so I feel like that's where the 54-day novena comes in. It's like this thing to aspire to.
Now, as far as the luminous mysteries go, I've never prayed them just because that's not the rosary I was raised with. Um, and again, there's certainly nothing wrong with the mysteries in and of themselves, but that they weren't. On the one hand, that's not what was delivered by the Virgin. On the other hand, it's not as though what they do is, or discuss is either out of keeping with the others or evil. I think this is one of those innumerable areas where personal conscience and personal taste really do mean something.
The luminous mysteries I thought are decidedly optional for what is it, the Thursday? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
luminous mysteries or joyful mysteries for the Thursday. So I don't think that should be a question at all. Of
No, again, I mean, it's like so many of these of the so many issues that arise in devotional life. It really is what fits you.
mm.
So I mean, we have enough troubles to worry about without adding, you know.
Yeah, your advice reminds me of St. Francis de Sales in Introduction to Devout Life. And the biggest takeaway from that book being everyone's idea of devotion is different.
Yeah,
And
because
so,
everyone is different.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Jonathan, top floor executive Jonathan. Mm.
Wow.
So you're gonna need to answer this question well, Charles. To
I'll try.
Right, he says, "Dear Mr. Vincent and Mr. Charles, how does one going about converting to Catholicism in a very non-Catholic area? I've been a Protestant my whole life, yet the more and more I read, learn, and watch past the anti-church and anti-Catholicism propaganda, Catholicism is not the controlling fire and brimstone church. And of course, the biggest Catholic role models I know are you two, so your words carry their weight in gold." Oh,
Boy, that's a lot to live up to.
hmm.
Well, there are large parts of the South and certain areas of the Midwest where not only are Catholic churches few and far between, but when you do have them, they're often of the most bizarre, horrible kind imaginable. Um, it's tough, but you have several possibilities. Um, one thing I like to refer people to, let's say you can't find a Latin Mass in your area. There's no Eastern Rite. There's no Ordinariate. What do you do now? My advice is to go to the Real Presence Perpetual Adoration Association's website and see if any of the Catholic churches in your area have a perpetual adoration chapel. If they do, then they're doing something right. We'll say there's something there. And you'd be surprised how many of these places they are. So that's one possibility. The other possibility, of course, is having to drive a long, long way. You know, there are people who routinely drive 2 or 3 hours each way to get to a mass on Sunday. So do what you can. But you're feeling the call, and you do have to follow it.
All right. Last question for the day is from Medieval Chris, who says, "Hello, I have a question for Sir Charles and Sir Vincent. What
Oh,
is the Zaire Rite? I
ah,
lean traditional, but I genuinely enjoy seeing worship in what appears to be an authentic African context. I have been to the Caribbean as well, where I experienced the Roman Rite, but with dancing, clapping, drums, etc. And I must say, it was as reverent, if not more reverent, than many a Novus Ordo one comes across in the States. And gasp, the people and priest actually believe in the church's teaching. I read that this development of rights for other parts of the world is called inculturation. I guess my follow up to what is the Zaire Rite would be how much inculturation is too much? And how can boring old trad Latin Rite Catholics support the reverent development of new rites if the church believes them to be necessary?
well, uh, these things are all naturally on a case by case basis. I mean, the Zaire Rite, so called, actually has partial roots in something that came along when I was a boy called the Missaluba, which was a Latin, uh, how do I put it, the Latin ordinary of the Mass, uh, done in Luba with Luba music. It so happens that the syllables and all that of Latin fit in with Luba music very, very well. So that was the beginning of it. And then, they came up with the drums and all that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, we know that within the approved rites of the church, there's a lot of wild variation. I mean, you've never lived until you've been to a Chaldean liturgy. And at the elevation, they have this huge clashing of cymbals to show that Christ has come. Now, that would be very out of place in a Latin Rite parish. Priest elevates the host and suddenly bang, bang, bang. But in context with the Chaldeans, it's obvious that it's being done to greet the arrival of God.
Well, we do that on some level. We ring the bells, right?
Oh, yeah, 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 we do. But the point I'm making is that they really take it beyond. And I'm hesitant to be too doctrinaire about it, one way or the other, simply because there's so many factors here that A, really do belong to proper church authority. Um, and B, um, as laity, we're not really competent to judge some of this stuff. Um, I would say whatever works. If it really does make uh, better, more devout Catholics, then I'm in favor of it. If it doesn't, I'm not.
How do we decide that?
By their fruits you shall know them.
So you're basically sidestepping the question of how much enculturation is too much and how can we support reverent development of new rights.
Yeah, beyond my competence.
All right, Charles. All right, so be it.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the questions.
Yes, it does.
Well, that allows me to reiterate what I said earlier. As we're going through this wonderful October country, where the golden sunlight, the bright blue weather, the falling leaves. Oh, enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy it. Um, do enjoy it. And if you're suffering from narcolepsy at any given moment, if you feel your bed calling, well, dream of the next few days to come. Dream of the times you've had and the times you will have. I must say, going on the March for Life was a lot of fun. Um, not least because it was a reminder of just how many really fabulous young people there are out there. And it was a shot in the arm to see the kids um, and to see our pathetic opponents. So, I got a question though.
Yeah,
What day of the week is this going to be seen on?
this is going to be seen on a Monday, so I hope you all have a great week.
Yeah, but if it's Monday
It's off the menu.
and the soul you save,
May be your own.
just so, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, Halloween. Be sure to read Sir Sean. God bless you all.